Yo, what's going on, everybody? So today I'm going to be doing a behind the beat for my song Quarantine With Me. This is going to be a new series I'm starting on my channel with videos like behind my beat, behind my song, and behind the beat. So I know I already said this is my song, but I wanted to separate it by having a behind my beat and behind my song, so that the people who just want to see how I made the beat can watch the behind my beat video, and the people who want to see how I went into like writing the song or singing it a certain way at certain parts, or why I chose a certain flow for a certain part, or etc., can watch those other videos. And then with the behind the beat, I wanted to do videos of beats I've co-produced, not like fully produced myself, so, because I've co-produced some really cool songs and I want to like highlight them and kind of dig into how those came about. But I obviously can't say that's behind my beat because I didn't make the whole beat. So that's why I'm gonna do another, I guess, spin-off of this series with behind the beat from behind my beat and behind my song. Anyways, now that I've explained it, let's get into it.
Baby, can you quarantine with me? There's nobody else I'd rather be. We don't wanna be home alone anxiously. We'll make the best of our...
So for this beat, I pretty much got all of the sounds that I use for it off of Splice. I'm not sponsored by Splice, but they do have a lot of really good sounds. And the cool thing about them is like anyone, well, not anyone, you have to get approved, I'm pretty sure, if you want to like upload sounds on there for people to use. But there is a bigger diversity from just like Splice than there would be if you're just buying packs from like Native Instruments. Even though they have like packs from other producers as well, this is like a good cheap way to like get specific sounds that you need. So like my kick, you can't see here because this is the mix project. And the reason why I'm going through it in the mix project is because I wanted to go over like the basic mixing I did on it. And now I have a diploma in audio engineering and music production. And I wouldn't say I'm a professional, but I'm also not an amateur. And I also find with beats, well, definitely with beats, a lot of sounds you get are already processed, especially from like certain places. Like it's very rarely you'll find a place that has sounds that aren't pre-processed. Like even Native Instruments, I have a machine and all of their sounds come already processed, like the kits, and then you got to go into it and like take all that stuff off if you want to like mix it your own way. So a lot of the times with my beats, I don't feel like I have to do a lot of processing on the instruments to make it sound good. Now with my vocals that I have here, I have processing on some of the channels like Auto-Tune and Melodyne and a vocal writer to level it out. And then here on my buses, I have the majority of the stuff going on. But yeah, also I know I should probably be bussing this stuff out, but when I made this song specifically, I was kind of rushing it because I think I released it. Let me see when I released it. So I released this song on May 22nd last year. And at the time, I honestly thought, I'm pretty sure we were in a lockdown, and in Ontario where I live, I'm pretty sure at the time they were saying like the lockdown was gonna end. So I was rushing to get this song out in case the lockdown ended and like everything was okay. And now here we are like 7 months later in another lockdown with even more cases, which is crazy. But yeah, so I kind of rushed some of the mixing and mastering of this song just so I could get it out. But I spent a lot of time in like, I think the week that I took to mix and master it to get it as good as I could get it. Anyway, so I'm just gonna play the intro right now and like the drop so you can listen to it if you haven't heard it yet to see what it sounds like. So that's pretty much the beat right there. Like as I play it, those are like pretty much all of the elements of it, except for I don't know why I just tried pointing when I have a mouse right here that lights up when it clicks. I'm also very new to this. Like, this is the first time making a video like this, so please bear with me as I figure out like as I get used to it and figure out how to do it better. But yeah, these vocals right here, pretty much, let me see when they come in. So I have like a high and low part on them. Okay, the low part is just for the outro. It looks like I did, which I don't know how I didn't remember that. But so here's just the part where the vocals come in. So yeah, I had 2 tracks going to the left and right just to space it out more and make it wider. But yeah, pretty much to get into this, as you can see here, I have 3 keys tracks. So these were all a keys loop from Splice. And what I like to do with beats sometimes, if it's like a really simple beat, is just take like the main sound and melody and pitch it up and down throughout the song to create movement in the track. So at the beginning, I started off low, as you can see right here. Then when the drop comes in, I have it at the mid part. I don't know why this says low right here. Then for the outro, I made the keys high, but I pitched the vocals down low, so it sounds like this. That just creates movement throughout the beat without having to add like a bunch of different instruments. And sometimes a beat is better if it's just like basic and bare. Like, adding too much stuff sometimes just makes it sound so muddy, and it takes away from like giving room to fit like the vocals in with the artist. And with beats like this, it's fun to like add harmonies and stuff because there's space to do that, or like some ad libs without drowning the whole thing out. So yeah, that pretty much covers the keys. Pretty simple, just a loop I got off of Splice, and I pitched it down an octave here, left it the same here, and pitched it up for the outro. Just to show you the processing I did on the keys, again, didn't really do much. They sounded like they were already like processed a bit to me from scratch, so I kind of just rolled off some of the low red here to give space for the kick and the bass, and then took off some of the really highs here to make that clear for the hi-hats. Then with the reverb, I did like a short to mid decay time and a short decay wetness, just because I didn't want it to like sound really muddy. I wanted the keys to kind of be like right there when you listen to it and not like in the background, so that like the whole beat is kind of like in front of you in a way, and not all spacey and like some trippy song, which isn't what this was meant to be. And for each keys, I kind of had a different like, so obviously for the lows here, I wanted the lows to like still be there, so I didn't take them out. But for the mids, I took a lot of the mids out so it could make more space for this 808 and the kick to like really come out in the beat. And then for the highs, I pretty much just kept it the same, but they all have the same. Well, actually, I just realized, whoops, this should be 30 and this should be 30. Hopefully that didn't mess anything up too much. I literally just realized that. So next is the vocal loop that again I got from Splice. So I already went over how I have 2 different pitches of the vocals just to create movement in the beat, but with the processing, I matched the compressor close up with the actual compressor that I used on my vocals in the track. And I'm pretty sure I just made the attack and release a little bit different because I still wanted these vocals to be like there with you, but then like I told you, I spread them out to the left and the right so that in the middle there was space for my actual vocals, but these vocals would still still be there, like you could still hear them pretty well. So I kind of had a fast attack and like a mid release on them. Then for the EQ, I took most of the lows out of it, just again to give more room for the keys and like all the other drum instruments. And I didn't need these vocals to be like very big sounding in the mix. I wanted them to be kind of like thin in a way, but still there, like kind of like a, I don't even know how to explain it, like a child's voice or like a female's voice with like a kind of higher pitch and higher frequency. So I took out a lot of the lows here, and then for the highs, I'm pretty sure I just like cut this down a bit at like the very top frequency, just so it wasn't so like what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just gonna go with sparkly, so it wasn't so sparkly in your ear. Then I used the de-esser. Now this sample, I'm pretty sure doesn't have any S sound in it. We can take a listen here if I just solo it. See, that first hit right there is kind of why I put it on there, just to kind of smoothen it out a bit and make it sound nicer, because there is no S's, but that first hit that comes in is kind of like harsh. So just threw this on there to make it a bit nicer sounding. After that, I threw a doubler on there. Now here you can see that I have the pans. This one's to the left, this one's to the right. And I put this on there again, like I said before, to make the vocals wider so that I have more space down the middle for my actual vocals, but at the same time making them like, I guess, big enough so that they're not completely lost in the mix. And yeah, that's pretty much just all I did. I panned them 45 left, 45 right, put the gains down a bit, and widened them out so that there was space for the actual vocals to be in the mix. Finally, for the vocals, I have reverb on them. Now this one is a lot longer, as you can see, and more wet than the keys. And the reason I did that again is I wanted these to be like background vocals, making the sounding wide in the background, while the keys and the rest of the beat was like there in front of you. The decay time is 2.86 seconds, and I have a wet dry of 64 out of 100. So yeah, that's pretty much why I did this reverb like that, compared to the reverb on the keys and the reverb that I have on some of the drums, which we'll get into not next, but soon. So next we have the bass / 808, whichever one you want to call it. Now this I actually played in the other project I made of just the beat. And here's another, I guess, pro tip if you didn't know. If you're making the beat and mixing the beat, you want to export all of your files from the beat project to audio and then make a new project to mix in. And the reason why you want to do that is it makes the workload so much easier on your computer, especially since you're going to be adding so much other processing already to the tracks. You don't want to be adding processing on top of your tracks that are being run by a plugin at the same time, because then that's just going to be too much work for pretty much any computer. So back to the 808. This is just the audio of it, but I got an audio sample off of Splice again and just played out this melody. Oh, I still have the vocals soloed. Played out this melody. Honestly, I should probably solo the 808. Yeah, so for the processing on the 808, I took out the really low mids right here. I did a slope on it just to give it more like pop in that low end. I raised it here around 245 hertz to give like the, man, I keep forgetting words tonight that I want to say that I usually remember and know to explain like a certain thing. I guess we'll just go with the harmonic frequencies. And then here's another pro tip. To mix your 808 and kick so that your kick still comes through in the mix, you should roll off the peak frequencies of your 808. Sorry, I meant the peak frequencies of your kick off your 808 around like 3 to 6 dB would be pushing it. So if I play them together, as you can see, the same area here that was peaking on my kick, I cut out on my 808. And then I just took out the high frequencies so that it wouldn't muddy up the rest of the instruments, like the keys and the vocals, and then the clap, snare, snap, and hi-hats. Then I side chained my 808 to my kick, again, to make the kick come through in the mix and pop more, but still have the fullness or the boom of that 808 in the background. So when I play them and play around with the threshold, you'll see what the sidechain is doing. Now I did it very subtly here because I didn't want to have some crazy sounding like effect on the 808 in the background. And for like some electronic music, you might want to have that effect, but for what I was using it for, I didn't want to do that. I was just kind of using it more for like a mixing technique than a, I guess you would say, melodic one. Then finally, I just put a saturator on there. Again, this is to give those harmonic frequencies more space, or a boost, if you will, so that you can hear that 808 more in the mix and it's not just like really low and you'll need like a sub to listen to it. So yeah, I just gave it like around 6 dB of a drive and around the 280 frequency again, which as you can see here, I have it boosted around there as well. And yeah, that kind of just gives it more like of a way so that you can hear it in the mix and it's not just some really low sound. Moving on, now that we've covered the 808, we have the kick, which again is a one shot that I got off a splice. So yeah, this isn't a loop. I got the one shot off a splice and played it. I don't ever think I use a loop for my drums. When I was younger, I used to play drums in high school band and in my own, I guess, kind of band. So I guess you could say I have somewhat of a drummer's background, and honestly, doing the drums are my favorite part of making a beat, which I feel like it's most people's part, unless you came from like playing piano as you were a kid and you're some piano prodigy, which I still like playing piano. I've taken piano lessons myself, and I would say I'm not an amateur, but I'm kind of decent at piano. But the drums just add the groove. Everyone likes a beat because you start to feel that groove. Like, yes, you feel a groove when you're playing piano and it's like emotional, or it still makes you feel some type of way, but like adding the drums give it that bounce that makes people want to like move and dance and like bob their head. So drums are my favorite part. But anyway, so processing on the kick, just a compressor and an EQ. Now for kicks, especially in like hip hop or like some R&B, you want to have the attack really high and the release really low, and that makes the kick like hit more in the mix. And you usually want to have a ratio of 1 to 3, I would say, but just for this mix, I had it around like 4 to 1, because once you get it down, it makes kind of more of like a punchier sound, and I wanted it to kind of be bigger, so that's why I had a 4 to 1 ratio. I have a threshold of minus 9 dB, and I had an output gain of around 2 dB. Now I put an output gain on it because I wanted kind of to make what the compressor was doing louder, rather than just turning the volume up on it, or the level, whatever term you want to use on it right here, because I'm pretty sure from what I remember, the actual sample itself wasn't the greatest. So that's without processing, and here's with the stuff I did. So yeah, as you can see, it's a lot punchier and like bigger. So the threshold and your output gain, usually you can kind of play around with it and see what sounds good. Some people have like, what's the word? Specific spots that they would say stuff should be like in the ballpark of. But for me personally, I just doing what I think sounds the best, and I think that's the best approach you can go into with. For the kicks EQ, I did the same slope roll off around 0.30 dB, I would say it is, or around 30 hertz at the bottom. And I kind of brought up the lows in the kick again because the actual sample itself didn't sound the greatest, and I kind of wanted to make those lows pop, so that's what I did there. And I took down some of the, I guess, low mids to give more space for that bass harmonics where it was at. And then again, I rolled off the highs so that it made more space for the clap, snare, snap, and hi-hat and the other instruments in the beat. Moving on to the clap. The clap again is a one-shot sample I got off a splice. But like I said before, I like playing the drums, so it's not a loop. For the clap EQ, so for this beat actually, I used a preset from Ableton. And I actually like presets because it gives you like a good, I guess, starting place to go off of. And from that preset, I pretty much just rolled off the lows to about the low mid mark. Cut out some bad frequencies here around 1K, and then boosted up the highs just to really make that clap come through. And for the reverb, so something I learned in school was if you have a reverb with a decay time of less than 500 milliseconds, it makes it sound like it's like reflecting off of a wall instead of being like an actual reverb, or it makes it sound like more of a delay type of thing. So for a lot of my drums, I like doing a decay time between 500 milliseconds and under, and a somewhat a mid to short wet time so that it's not like a crazy effect that's going off, it's just subtle. So that's what I did for my clap. The snare, snap, and hi-hat, okay, no, the snap is different, but the hi-hat and the snare both have the same reverb as well. The snare, snap, and hi-hat, also the same thing. They were one shots I got off a splice that I played out. And yeah, so the snare and clap EQ are pretty similar. Just a couple changes. I took less lows off of the snare, so it would be more prominent or prevalent. I don't know what the word is in your ear. And again, boosted those highs. The snap, I don't know why this here. I don't know why this is here. Honestly, I thought maybe that was like the preset, but okay, I accidentally played the beat. The snap EQ is similar to the clap, just took some more highs out of it because I wanted them to be able to be differentiated from with like the main parts of their, I guess, frequencies, which are around this area that kind of like make them pop or make them there. So yeah, took off most of the lows, took out some bad frequencies here around 2.5K, and then boosted the highs again to really make it pop out. Now with the snap EQ, I put a decay time higher than 500 milliseconds, and I made the dry wet higher because I wanted the snap to kind of sound like someone was like far away. So yeah, that's pretty much why I did that. And I wanted to be able to have the snap like kind of stand out in a way from the clap and snare, and that was the best way I thought of doing that. So finally, moving on to the last instrument in this beat, or the last drum, is the hi-hats. So usually with the hi-hats, I would take off more lows than this and would not take off as many highs as this. Honestly, looking at this right now and trying to think back, I have no idea why I did that. I would not take as many of these highs out, but I would still take some of it out again, so it's not like so like tinny, or not even tinny, like sparkly in your ear like crazy. And I just took out a frequency here at 11.6K that I thought was probably ringing, and I didn't like how it sounded. And usually with my hi-hats, I would boost them up in the highs as well, and I don't know why I did that here. Like if I play, I just realized I forgot to play the clap, the snare, the snap, and hi-hat. So I'll play all of those right now one more time. Now if we just play the hi-hats, yeah, I don't know why I didn't boost these. Like right here, I feel like I could have boosted this. And I should have taken a lot of the lows out of there. So, I mean, even still, like I said before, I kind of rushed this mix. Looking back now, I would have done this differently. Probably would have done some other stuff differently here too if I really like went into it. But honestly, I'm happy with the final product. It was probably my best mixed song I've ever had, and I have a lot more songs on my SoundCloud compared to streaming from when I was younger. Now for the panning on the drums, because this is very essential. So if I play them all at the same time, I have the hat slightly to the right, I have the snap to the right, and I have that snare going to the left. And then I have the hat or the clap pretty much in the middle. Now why I put the hi-hats and the snap to the right is because the snap doesn't hit as many times as the snare, and I wanted the hi-hat and the snare to kind of like bounce off each other, like and looking back now again, I honestly probably would have put that snap to the left too, just so it was just the hi-hats on this right side and the snare and the snap. Honestly, let's see what that would have sounded like. And then I want to do this more extremely because how I did it here wasn't enough. This is too much. This is a bit too much too. My camera just randomly stopped recording, which it has been doing a lot while I've been filming this. I don't know why that happens, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. But that sounds a lot better to me. And with a lot of my beats since this song, I guess I kind of started doing that. I don't know what made me start panning it more aggressively, but it definitely makes the beat sound a lot fuller and just better to me. So yeah, that's everything behind my beat for my song Quarantine With Me. I know it's a very simple beat, but I've actually gotten a lot of just hit my mic by accident. I've actually gotten a lot of compliments on the beat, which I really wasn't expecting because I'm pretty sure this didn't take me very long to make. And as you can see, it's with what's going on is like really simple, but there's been a bunch of people being like, yo, this beat's fire. So you don't need to put a bunch of stuff in the beat sometimes. Just having like one instrument, some background stuff, and really good drums is all you need to have a really good beat for a good song. Really good song. That's gonna be it though. I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of my Behind My Beat series. I'm gonna have a lot more videos like this, but obviously better once I start getting more used to it and figuring everything out. And I also have other video ideas that I'm kind of going to be rotating with this series and possibly other series that I'm doing. So leave a like, subscribe if you enjoy and you want to see more stuff like this. And yeah, peace.